Comfort Kills Growth: The Financial Cost of Lifestyle Creep. Written by Ronnie Rowland. Published by Growth Literacy Lounge. Picture this: you finally get that raise you've worked so hard for. You feel proud, maybe even relieved. So you celebrate. A few more dinners out. A slightly nicer car. An upgraded apartment. You've earned it, right? But months pass, and somehow, your bank account looks eerily similar to before. The money came in, and quietly disappeared. This is the hidden trap of lifestyle creep. It doesn't announce itself with alarms or flashing lights. It whispers. It tells you you're doing better, so you deserve more. And slowly, without realizing it, your needs expand, your baseline shifts, and your financial growth stalls. It's not just about spending, it's about what spending says about us, and how comfort becomes the enemy of progress. Financial stability isn't built by making more money. It's built by managing your response to that money. Jim Rohn once said, "Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment." But discipline becomes harder the moment comfort enters the room. Growth requires discomfort. It asks you to delay gratification, to say no when everyone else says, treat yourself, and to keep your future self in sharper focus than your present urges. This book isn't here to shame your choices. It's here to shed light on them, to help you see the quiet costs of comfort, and how small shifts can bring big rewards. We'll uncover the patterns, name the traps, and explore the real cost of upgrading your life before you've outgrown your old one. If you're ready to trade fleeting comfort for lasting growth, then let's begin. Chapter 1: The Silent Shift That Costs You Everything. You didn't notice it at first. Maybe it started with an upgraded phone. Then it was a few more takeout dinners. A new subscription here, a nicer pair of shoes there. Each purchase felt justified. You worked hard, you deserved a little reward. But somewhere along the way, your expenses grew faster than your income, and you never saw it coming. That's lifestyle creep. It doesn't crash through the door like a financial crisis. It slips in through the cracks, disguised as progress. It tells you that success looks like more comfort, more spending, more convenience. It whispers that maintaining appearances is just part of adulthood. But what it doesn't tell you is that every quiet financial decision has a ripple effect. A coffee upgrade here, a vacation splurge there, these aren't just transactions. They're habits being formed. And habits, once rooted, don't ask for permission to stay. The real danger of lifestyle creep isn't in the spending itself. It's in what that spending replaces. Every dollar allocated to comfort is a dollar not invested, not saved, not used for growth. And over time, those small choices compound, not in your favor. You may not feel the weight immediately, but the long-term cost is staggering. Financial freedom doesn't disappear in one grand mistake. It erodes quietly, in the background of your daily life. No one warns you that the raise you got at work could be the beginning of your undoing. More income should mean more opportunity. But without intentional choices, it often becomes more obligation. The new car comes with new insurance. The bigger home with higher bills. The dinner upgrade becomes the new standard. Before long, you're no longer living better, you're just living more expensively. This isn't about guilt. It's about awareness. Most people fall into this trap not because they're reckless, but because they're unconscious. They don't stop to ask if their spending is moving them toward their goals. They measure success by what they can afford today, not by what they'll need tomorrow. And the world around them cheers them on. Advertisers, influencers, even well-meaning peers, all reinforce the idea that more is always better. But more isn't better if it's robbing your future. You can't grow in a space that's overstuffed with comfort. Growth requires margin, room to breathe, room to invest, room to make smart decisions. Lifestyle creep steals that margin and replaces it with stress. It ties you to a standard of living you're forced to maintain. And once you've tasted that upgraded life, it's hard to go back. That's why people stay in jobs they hate or delay big goals. They've built a lifestyle that demands a certain paycheck, and they don't know how to scale back. But here's the truth: you have more control than you think. Recognizing the patterns is the first step. Once you see how lifestyle creep operates, you can begin to push back. You can start asking better questions. Do I need this? Is it aligned with my values? Is this helping me grow or just making me comfortable? Comfort feels good in the moment, but growth feels better in the long run. And while lifestyle creep thrives in silence, awareness disrupts its power. The goal isn't to live a life of denial. It's to live a life of direction. When your money has purpose, your choices become powerful. And with enough powerful choices, you can design a life that truly reflects your priorities. It starts here. With noticing. With choosing differently. With asking if comfort is costing you more than you realize. Because once you see the trap, you can escape it. And that's when real growth begins. Chapter 2: When income rises but wealth doesn't. There's a strange phenomenon that happens when your paycheck grows. You feel wealthier, but your bank account doesn't reflect it. You earn more, yet somehow it still feels like you're barely keeping up. The numbers change, but the pressure doesn't. That's not because you're failing, it's because your expenses are silently expanding to match your income. And if you're not paying close attention, they'll overtake it. It begins innocently enough. A salary bump inspires a better wardrobe. A promotion leads to a nicer apartment. Suddenly, the things you once viewed as luxuries start to feel like needs. You're not just spending more, you're building a lifestyle that requires more. This phenomenon has a name: lifestyle inflation. And it's the reason so many high earners remain trapped in the same financial anxiety as those who make far less. It's not about how much you make. It's about how much you keep. People often believe that wealth will naturally come with a bigger paycheck. But wealth isn't a number on your income statement, it's a result of consistent, intentional financial behavior. If your habits don't change, your outcomes won't either. More money simply amplifies your existing patterns. If you spent impulsively when you made less, chances are you'll spend impulsively when you make more, just on a grander scale. You might think, I'll save once I hit this next income milestone. But that milestone keeps moving. Every time you get there, a new expense shows up to greet you. A car that matches your role. Travel that matches your peers. Dining that fits your new status. The bar keeps rising, and you keep chasing. You start living for the image of success, instead of the reality of financial stability. What makes lifestyle creep so dangerous is that it feels justified. You're not blowing money on absurd luxuries, you're upgrading things that seem reasonable. Better groceries. A nicer neighborhood. A second streaming service. And because each decision makes sense on its own, you rarely stop to consider the full picture. You convince yourself you're still being responsible, even as your spending outpaces your growth. Then the unexpected happens. A job loss. A medical bill. A market downturn. And suddenly your new lifestyle becomes a liability. What once felt like progress now feels like a trap. The monthly bills you agreed to in moments of confidence now feel heavy and inflexible. That's when reality hits. Income is temporary, but commitments are long-term. But it doesn't have to go that way. There's immense power in keeping your lifestyle steady, even as your income rises. The gap between what you earn and what you spend, that's where wealth is built. That's where freedom lives. It's not glamorous, and it doesn't always impress the outside world. But it gives you margin. It gives you options. It gives you peace. This chapter isn't about shame, it's about strategy. It's about learning to decouple your identity from your spending. To redefine what progress looks like. To remind yourself that real wealth is quiet. It doesn't scream for attention. It doesn't need validation. It grows in the background patiently, while everyone else is distracted by appearances. When your income goes up, you have a choice: raise your lifestyle or raise your future. Most people choose the former without even realizing it. But if you're reading this, you're not most people. You're starting to notice the pattern. You're starting to question the default. And that shift in awareness? That's where everything begins to change. Chapter 3: The Hidden Debt of Looking Successful. There's a pressure to look like you're doing well, even when you're not. It's subtle, but it's everywhere. You see it in curated social feeds, in casual conversations, and the expectations you feel at work or within your social circle. The message is clear: if you want to be taken seriously, you need to look the part. So you buy the things that signal success: a newer car, designer clothes, dinners at trendy restaurants, not necessarily because you need them, but because they tell the world you've made it. But behind those appearances, many people are carrying invisible debt and silent stress. We live in a culture where perception often outweighs reality. People are willing to go into debt just to appear like they're thriving. And the most dangerous part? It doesn't feel reckless. It feels normal. Credit cards, payment plans, buy now pay later services, they've made it easy to disguise financial strain as financial strength. You might look like you're winning on the outside while quietly drowning beneath the surface. The desire to be seen a certain way is deeply human. We all want to feel valued, respected, admired. But when that desire drives your financial behavior, you end up spending money you don't have to impress people who aren't thinking about you as much as you believe. The cost isn't just monetary, it's emotional. You carry the weight of debt, anxiety, and the constant pressure to maintain the illusion. Even worse, you delay real progress. That money spent to look successful could have been building your actual success: investments, emergency funds, debt payoff, business ventures. But instead, it's tied up in things that depreciate the moment they leave the store. The wardrobe might be fresh, but the future is stale. You're stuck in a loop, earning to spend, spending to impress, and staying broke behind the scenes. This isn't about abandoning ambition or rejecting nice things. It's about getting honest about your motives. Are you buying that item because it adds value to your life? Or because it adds value to how you're perceived? That's a question most people never ask themselves, and that's exactly why they stay trapped. It's also why so many people feel like they're failing, even when they're earning more than they ever have. Because deep down, they know the truth: their money isn't working for them. It's working for their image. An image doesn't pay off debt. Image doesn't create passive income. Image doesn't prepare you for setbacks. Only discipline and intentional choices do that. Ironically, the people who are truly wealthy don't always look the part. They don't need to. They've built a foundation that speaks for itself. Their success isn't tied to symbols, it's tied to freedom. They don't buy things to prove something. They buy things because they've earned the ability to do so without jeopardizing their future. If you want real freedom, you have to choose it over validation. That might mean keeping your car longer, wearing the same outfits more than once, or saying no to a night out you can't afford. Not because you're broke, but because you're building. You're playing a different game. One that values sustainability over optics. There's no shame in wanting to be seen. But there's power in choosing to be unseen while you build. Because when your wealth is real, not just worn, it stays with you. Long after the trends fade. Long after the applause dies down. That's the kind of success no one can take away from you. And it starts by letting go of the need to prove it. Chapter 4: When Deserve Becomes Dangerous. You've had a long week. You've worked overtime, hit your goals, kept your cool when everything around you was stressful. You're tired but proud. So you treat yourself. Maybe it's a new pair of shoes. Maybe it's dinner at that place you've been eyeing. Maybe it's a weekend getaway booked on a whim. Whatever it is, you justify it with a single thought: I deserve this. And maybe you do. But that mindset, when repeated often enough, becomes a silent enemy to your financial growth. Deserving something is not the same as affording it. That distinction matters more than most people realize. When your reward system is tied to spending, you create a cycle where emotional validation depends on purchases. The dopamine hit from a shopping spree feels like relief, like a break from the pressure. But the relief is temporary. The cost, however, stays with you, on your statement, in your budget, and eventually, in your habits. It's easy to lose track of what's actually necessary when you start making financial decisions based on feelings. You begin to rationalize purchases that don't support your goals. That $200 dinner isn't just a celebration, it's a pattern. That weekend trip wasn't just a break, it's the 5th time in 3 months. These choices, while small in isolation, snowball into lifestyle expectations that are hard to reverse. And once you normalize a higher level of spending, it's hard to dial it back. The I deserve it trap is appealing because it feels empowering. But true empowerment doesn't come from indulging, it comes from choosing long-term gain over short-term satisfaction. It's not about denying yourself joy. It's about defining joy in a way that aligns with your purpose. Does this purchase bring you closer to the life you want, or is it just filling a moment of exhaustion or boredom? Marketing doesn't help. Advertisements are built to feed the you deserve it narrative. You're told that your value is reflected in what you own. That treating yourself is self-love. That success means having the best of everything. But real success often looks like discipline. It looks like making the less exciting choice in the moment so that your future self can breathe easier. There's a fine line between celebration and sabotage. Treating yourself isn't inherently wrong. But when it becomes your default response to stress or accomplishment, it loses its meaning and drains your resources. Rewarding yourself should be intentional, not automatic. The difference lies in how often you do it, how much you spend, and whether that choice supports your broader vision. If you constantly spend to feel better, you never get to feel free. Because every act of indulgence tied to emotion becomes another link in a chain that keeps you financially dependent on your next paycheck. And the sad truth is, many people will spend decades feeling like they're chasing happiness, when they're really just chasing balance sheets they don't control. The next time you feel the urge to say, "I deserve this," pause. Ask yourself what you truly deserve. Is it another object that fades into the background after a week? Or is it peace of mind, financial freedom, time with your family, and the ability to choose how you spend your days? You deserve clarity. You deserve options. You deserve the chance to build a future that isn't defined by impulse or empty rewards. That future doesn't come from what you buy, it comes from what you protect. Deserve something greater than comfort. Deserve growth. And act like it. Chapter 5. The lifestyle you build becomes the cage you live in. You didn't mean to make it permanent. At first, the upgrades were just that, upgrades. Temporary splurges to celebrate progress or cope with stress. The better car, the bigger apartment, the nicer vacations. But over time, they became the norm. What once felt like a reward now feels like a requirement. And before you realized it, you built a lifestyle that demands maintenance. A lifestyle that whispers you can't go back. That's the danger no one talks about. Comfort, once embraced, becomes expectation. You get used to the conveniences. You structure your days around them. You build habits that depend on them. And even when those things no longer bring you joy, you cling to them because they've become part of your identity. It's no longer just about what you want, it's about what you've convinced yourself you need. As your standard of living rises, your tolerance for anything less shrinks. You stop seeing luxuries as extras. You start seeing them as essentials. And when life challenges you, when income drops, emergencies hit, or goals change, you feel trapped. Downsizing feels like failure. Scaling back feels like defeat. But in reality, it's the lifestyle itself that's the problem, not your desire to simplify. This is how lifestyle creep evolves into lifestyle captivity. Not because you've failed, but because you didn't stop to evaluate. You were told to pursue the better life, but no one told you what that pursuit might cost. The dream became expensive, and the exit became invisible. You didn't mean to create a cage, you just didn't notice it forming. The most dangerous cages are the ones you decorate with comfort. Your lifestyle shouldn't be a reflection of your income, it should be a reflection of your values. But when your lifestyle grows on autopilot, it begins to serve your ego instead of your future. You find yourself making decisions based on how things look, not how they feel. You justify staying in situations that drain you because you need the paycheck to fund the life you've built. That's not freedom. That's a financial trap wearing the mask of success. It's not just about the money. It's about the energy. Maintaining an inflated lifestyle takes more than dollars, it takes your time, your focus, your mental bandwidth. You're constantly thinking about how to sustain it. You worry more. You plan less. You hustle not for fulfillment, but for maintenance. That kind of living doesn't lead to peace, It leads to burnout. But the good news is, the cage isn't locked. It starts with awareness. A willingness to question what you've accepted as normal. To look at your expenses and ask, do these reflect who I want to be? Or are they echoes of a version of me I no longer want to sustain? Scaling back isn't a step backward, it's a strategic pivot. It's choosing alignment over appearance. It's trading the illusion of wealth for actual financial stability. You have the right to design a life that fits you, not one that impresses others but leaves you empty. That might mean canceling subscriptions you barely use. It might mean selling the car that costs more than it's worth. It might mean downsizing to create breathing room. These aren't sacrifices. They're declarations. They say, I value freedom over status. I choose growth over image. The lifestyle you build should support your dreams, not suffocate them. If it doesn't, it's time to rebuild. The truth is, freedom isn't found in what you accumulate, it's found in what you're willing to release. Chapter 6: Inflation-Proof Dreams Require Discipline. You can't control the economy, but you can control your habits. Prices rise. Groceries cost more. Rent climbs. Gas fluctuates. And yet, most people don't adjust their lifestyle, they adjust their tolerance for discomfort. Instead of making conscious financial shifts, they absorb the cost, hoping things level out. But hope is not a strategy. Inflation doesn't ask for your permission. It erodes your purchasing power silently, and if you're not careful, it will also erode your dreams. There's a common belief that inflation is something only economists need to worry about. But the truth is, inflation lives in your grocery cart, in your utility bill, in your kids' back-to-school expenses. It's not just a number on the news, it's a force that eats into your plans if you're not proactive. And yet, when prices rise, many people respond by spending more, not less. They cling to the same habits, the same brands, the same routines, even when their budget can't support it. Discipline becomes your greatest shield in times like these. Not because it magically lowers prices, but because it increases your adaptability. When you live below your means consistently, you create margin. That margin is what allows you to absorb economic shocks without falling apart. It gives you breathing room when the world tightens. It lets you continue moving forward while others are scrambling just to stay afloat. The problem isn't just inflation. It's lifestyle rigidity. When your identity is tied to specific comforts, cutting back feels like failure. You might think, I'm not going back to store-brand groceries, or I've earned this level of living. But earn or not, if your income doesn't grow at the same rate as your expenses, something has to give. And if you're not choosing what to give up intentionally, the pressure will choose for you through debt, stress, or forced sacrifice. That's where discipline comes in, not as punishment but as power. It's the ability to say, this is enough for now, even when you could technically afford more. It's resisting the urge to upgrade just because others are. It's planning your purchases instead of reacting emotionally to rising costs. When you act with intention, inflation becomes a challenge, not a crisis. Your financial dreams don't vanish because life gets more expensive. They vanish when you stop protecting them. And protection doesn't come through denial, it comes through design. Are you designing your spending with purpose? Are you reviewing your budget regularly and adjusting where needed? Or are you letting your expenses drift while your goals stay on pause? Most people don't fail because they lack knowledge. They fail because they lack consistency. They set a budget once and never revisit it. They save when it's convenient but spend when it's emotional. Inflation doesn't derail those who are prepared, it exposes those who aren't. It's not about being perfect. It's about being aware. Awareness leads to adjustments. Adjustments lead to momentum. And momentum, even in small doses, builds resilience. That resilience is what allows you to hold on to your goals when the world makes them feel out of reach. Discipline today is the rent you pay for freedom tomorrow. Every decision matters, especially when everything feels uncertain. The more disciplined you are now, the more options you'll have later. And in a world where prices are always rising, having options is the ultimate wealth. Let others react. You'll respond. Let others complain. You'll adapt. Because your dreams are worth more than convenience. They deserve a plan. And that plan begins with discipline, not denial. Chapter 7: More money, same problems. There's a point in your journey where you expect things to finally feel different. Maybe it's after a raise, a bonus, or hitting a new income bracket. You think the stress will fade, the pressure will lift, and financial clarity will naturally arrive. But instead, you find yourself in the same place, juggling bills, stressing over the future, and wondering where all your money went. The paycheck grew, but your peace didn't. That's because more money doesn't fix bad habits. It just funds them. Most people assume that income is the answer to all financial struggles. And while earning more certainly helps, it's not a cure-all. If your financial patterns are reactive, emotional, or unconscious, a bigger paycheck won't change that, it will amplify it. You won't automatically start saving. You won't automatically invest wisely. You won't automatically become strategic with your spending. Those behaviors are built through discipline, not digits. Money only solves money problems when you use it intentionally. Without awareness, the same financial chaos that plagued your past will follow you into your future, no matter how much you earn. The anxiety doesn't disappear, it just wears nicer clothes. The debt doesn't vanish, it just comes with higher limits. You still feel stretched. You still feel behind. Because income doesn't create wealth, habits do. This is why so many high-income earners still live paycheck to paycheck. They believe their income protects them from financial vulnerability. But income is only a tool. How you use it determines your outcome. If every dollar you earn is spent before it's saved, you're not progressing, you're just maintaining a higher cost of living. You've traded one level of stress for another, with a bigger price tag. It's not that you're bad with money. It's that you've been conditioned to believe that having more means you're doing better. So when you get more, you raise your lifestyle to match. You increase your car note. You upgrade your house. You subscribe to more. You spend for convenience. You justify every step because the money is there. But the presence of money doesn't mean the absence of consequences. The real question isn't what you can afford now, it's what you're sacrificing later. Wealth isn't measured by income. It's measured by time. How long could you sustain your lifestyle without another paycheck? How long would your current savings last? Those are the questions that expose the truth. Because while income is fleeting, financial freedom is built. And building requires effort, not assumption. If your financial life feels the same as it did when you made half your current income, it's time to reevaluate. Growth should show up in more than your salary. It should show up in your savings, your investments, your peace of mind. If it hasn't, then your income isn't the problem, your habits are. The good news is, habits can be changed. It starts with intention. Decide where your money goes before it decides for you. Set goals that matter and align your spending with them. Learn to pause before upgrading. Understand the difference between enhancing your life and complicating it. Don't let your earnings become a treadmill that only speeds up your stress. More money gives you more choices. But those choices must be made with clarity. Otherwise, you'll keep repeating the same cycle: more income, same problems, less progress. Break that pattern now, while you still can. Because real financial power isn't about what you earn. It's about what you keep, what you grow, and what you protect. And that shift in thinking? That's where freedom begins. Chapter 8: Chasing Status Over Stability. You see it all the time, people striving to reach the next level, not for the sake of fulfillment or peace, but for the image it projects. They want the car that turns heads, the home that impresses, the vacation photos that signal success. Social media becomes the scoreboard, and every post is a performance. But while status might grab attention, stability builds freedom. And the more you chase one, the more you risk losing the other. Status is loud. It craves validation. It pushes you to spend, to prove, to display. It whispers that you're only as valuable as what people can see. And so you begin to stretch your finances for things that bring recognition but no return. You finance the appearance of success while putting your actual future at risk. The applause feels good, for a moment. But behind the likes and compliments often hides a growing sense of stress and instability. The need to be seen as successful is a trap that many fall into without realizing. It doesn't start with a lavish purchase. It starts with comparison. You see someone doing better or appearing to, and you feel behind. Not because you're struggling, but because you're measuring your progress against someone else's highlight reel. Suddenly, your goals shift from what's meaningful to what's marketable. You stop building your life and start building a brand. There's nothing wrong with enjoying nice things. But when your self-worth becomes tied to those things, they own you. You spend more, save less, and justify the imbalance by telling yourself it's normal. After all, everyone else is doing it. But everyone else is broke, or close to it. Most people live paycheck to paycheck not because they lack income, but because they've prioritized status over strategy. Stability, on the other hand, is quiet. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't need validation. Stability is about choices. It's about having the power to say no, the freedom to walk away, and the clarity to live below your means because you value peace more than praise. It's not exciting in the moment, but it pays off in ways that truly matter: less stress, more options, and a stronger foundation. The danger in chasing status is that it's never enough. The goalposts keep moving. Once you have the car, you want the upgraded version. Once you move into the nicer neighborhood, you notice the houses that make yours feel small. Status doesn't satisfy, it stirs up discontentment disguised as ambition. And if you're not careful, you'll spend your life chasing symbols while missing substance. Real confidence doesn't come from what you own, it comes from knowing you don't need to prove anything. When you stop chasing what impresses others, you can finally pursue what fulfills you. That's where stability begins. It's in the quiet decisions. The ones no one sees. The ones that don't get posted. It's choosing a used car over a new loan. It's investing when everyone else is spending. It's declining the trip you can't afford so you can fund the future you want. Stability might not earn you a round of applause, but it will earn you freedom. And freedom is what you're truly after, not the attention, not the image, not the borrowed admiration. You want to wake up without financial pressure. You want to sleep knowing you're covered. You want to build something that lasts. Let others chase the spotlight. You'll build the foundation. Let others spend to be noticed. You'll invest to be free. Because when the dust settles, it's not status that sustains you. It's stability. And that's the difference between looking rich and being wealthy. Chapter 9. When convenience costs too much. There's a quiet price you pay for making things easier. It doesn't show up all at once. It builds slowly, disguised as comfort. You start opting for faster options, smoother transactions, and simpler choices. You lean into delivery apps, subscriptions, premium services, and anything that promises to save you time or effort. At first, it feels like efficiency. But over time, convenience becomes a habit. And eventually, that habit becomes expensive. Modern life is designed to make you choose convenience without thinking. One-click purchases, auto-renewals, monthly upgrades, they all create a frictionless path to spending. You don't feel the weight of each decision because the process has been engineered to feel effortless. But what's easy in the moment can be costly over time. The price isn't just the money, it's what that money could have done for you elsewhere. Convenience rewires your brain to avoid patience. Instead of cooking, you order in. Instead of budgeting, you automate and hope for the best. Instead of researching, you go with the first option. You tell yourself you're being efficient, but what you're really doing is outsourcing discipline. And when discipline is outsourced, so is control. You're not lazy. You're just distracted. And the world has made it incredibly easy to stay that way. It offers you shortcuts that feel productive but leave your bank account leaking. The gym membership you haven't used in months. The streaming platforms you barely open. The delivery fees that add up to hundreds per year. None of these are inherently harmful. But unchecked, they become a slow drain, one you often don't notice until it's too late. The problem with convenience is that it rarely encourages evaluation. Once it's set up, it runs in the background. You stop asking if you still need it. You stop noticing how often it's being used. And that's when it becomes dangerous. Not because it's extravagant, but because it's invisible. You feel in control, but you're actually on autopilot. Convenience is most dangerous when it masks dependency. You convince yourself that certain things are non-negotiable. Grocery delivery becomes essential. Upgraded shipping becomes standard. Paying extra for speed, access, or preference becomes routine. You begin to forget what life looked like without those layers of luxury. And when a financial storm hits, you find it harder to cut back, not because you can't, but because you've grown dependent on ease. Reclaiming your power starts with paying attention. Look at your expenses and ask what's truly serving you. Which conveniences are improving your life, and which ones are just habits you've never questioned? What are you trading for that comfort, peace of mind, savings, financial freedom? It's not about eliminating every convenience. It's about aligning them with your goals. True freedom doesn't come from avoiding discomfort, it comes from knowing when discomfort is worth it. Sometimes, taking the longer route builds strength. Sometimes, saying no to ease protects your future. Sometimes, cooking instead of ordering out isn't just healthier, it's a financial statement. A reminder that you are in control, not your cravings, not your impulses, and certainly not convenience. Convenience isn't evil. But it should be earned, not assumed. When you reach a place where your financial house is in order, where your systems are strong and your savings are solid, then convenience can serve you. Until then, be willing to lean into discomfort. Be willing to slow down. Be willing to question the easy path. Because sometimes, what's easiest now costs you the most later. And you're not building a life that runs on shortcuts. You're building a life that lasts. Chapter 10. Normalized struggle isn't success. Somewhere along the way, struggling became part of the identity. It's not always loud. In fact, it's often wrapped in the appearance of success. You've got the job, the car, the house, maybe even the clothes to match. But behind the scenes, you're stressed, stretched thin, and stuck in a cycle that feels impossible to break. You're not thriving, you're surviving. And worse, you've convinced yourself this is just how life works. We live in a world where financial strain has become so common that it's normalized. Everyone has debt. Everyone lives for payday. Everyone jokes about being broke after bills hit. It's a shared experience that makes you feel less alone, but also less urgent about changing it. Because if everyone's struggling, maybe struggle is just part of adulthood. Maybe you're not doing anything wrong. Maybe this is just life. But struggle, when accepted as a permanent state, becomes dangerous. It shapes your identity. You begin to believe you're someone who's always behind, someone who never quite gets ahead. And when you believe that, you stop trying to change it. You stop challenging the systems and habits that keep you in survival mode. You stop reaching. You settle. That's not resilience. That's resignation. And it's costing you more than you know. Success should never come with chronic stress as its price tag. If your version of making it leaves you anxious, depleted, or constantly worried about money, then it's time to question what you're really chasing. Because success isn't supposed to feel like barely holding it together. It's not supposed to be built on sacrifice that never ends. Normalized struggle teaches you to work harder instead of smarter. It tells you to hustle, to push, to grind through the fatigue. But working more hours won't save you if your money is mismanaged. Getting another promotion won't free you if you're spending scales with your income. The issue isn't effort, it's strategy. And most people never stop to evaluate their approach because they're too busy surviving. There's a myth that financial peace is only for the wealthy. That you can't feel secure until you hit a certain income level. But security doesn't come from how much you make. It comes from how well you manage what you have. It comes from systems, not salaries. From discipline, not digits. The danger of normalizing struggle is that it numbs you to your potential. You adapt to discomfort so well that you stop questioning it. You get used to not having savings. You adjust to living off credit. You figure out how to manage stress instead of removing the cause. But just because you can carry the weight doesn't mean it's not crushing you. You weren't meant to live in a constant state of financial tension. You were meant to build, to grow, to rest, to plan. And that kind of life doesn't come by accident, it comes through intentional, sometimes uncomfortable choices. It comes from breaking away from what's common to pursue what's possible. This isn't a critique of your hustle, it's a call to clarity. You're doing what you were taught. But maybe what you were taught wasn't designed to help you win. Maybe it was designed to keep you going just enough to stay in the game, but not enough to leave it. So if you're tired of feeling like you're doing everything right but getting nowhere, you're not crazy, you're just caught in a loop that was never meant to lead to freedom. And now that you see it, you can change it. Because struggle might be common, but it doesn't have to be your normal. Not anymore. Chapter 11: Redefining what rich really means. You've been taught to chase a version of wealth that shines on the outside. The house with the grand entrance, the luxury car in the driveway, the vacations in tropical places, and the curated lifestyle that looks like winning. But for many, that image of rich comes with debt, stress, and the constant need to maintain the illusion. It looks impressive, but it doesn't always feel secure. Somewhere along the way, rich became more about perception than peace. Real wealth is quiet. It's not broadcasted through brand names or flashy upgrades. It's felt in moments of freedom. It's the ability to make choices without money being the obstacle. It's sleeping well at night knowing your bills are covered, your future is funded, and you're not one emergency away from unraveling everything you've built. That's what it really means to be rich: security, not status. Being rich isn't about how much you earn. It's about how little you need to feel whole. You can have a modest income and be financially free. You can drive an older car and have a thriving investment portfolio. You can live in a humble home and still retire early. Because wealth isn't found in possessions, it's found in positioning. And your position improves when you stop chasing appearance and start building substance. True wealth is invisible. No one sees your emergency fund. No one claps for your paid-off car. No one reposts your growing net worth. But those quiet wins are what lead to a life that doesn't require escape. A life that feels calm instead of chaotic. A life you don't need a vacation from. The world won't celebrate your restraint, but your future self will. Redefining rich requires unlearning. It requires stepping back from the noise and asking what matters to you, not what looks good, not what impresses others, but what genuinely gives you peace. You might find that your definition of success has been shaped by marketing more than meaning. That your goals weren't really yours, they were borrowed from the world around you. You get to rewrite that story. Maybe rich for you means time with your kids, not overtime at the office. Maybe it means freedom to create, to travel slowly, to say no without guilt. Maybe it means choosing rest instead of the relentless pursuit of more. You're allowed to define wealth in a way that supports your life, not the narrative sold to you through ads and influencers. There's nothing wrong with having nice things. But when nice things have you, when they dictate your decisions, when they keep you tied to a job you hate or a lifestyle you can't afford, then they're no longer a reward. They're a chain. And no version of rich is worth that cost. So start building differently. Spend less than you earn. Save consistently. Invest early. Say no when it doesn't align. Be okay with not fitting in if it means standing firm in your values. Because true wealth isn't just a number, it's a lifestyle marked by intention, not impulse. The richest people aren't always the ones with the most, they're the ones who need the least to live well. That's the goal. Not to look rich, but to be free. Not to impress others, but to empower yourself. You've seen what the world says wealth is. Now it's time to define it for yourself. And once you do, you'll realize that you've been chasing the wrong finish line all along. Take care and be well.